In the world of illusions and filters and people saying things just to get approval, what would it look like to actually open my journal and tell you really the dark side of the moon of Deja Blu? Hello, you beautiful bluebirds, and welcome back to another episode of Deja Blu. Yay! I have an announcement to make. It's a very, very serious, important announcement. It's for all of you lovers out there. I love this podcast. I love this podcast. I love this podcast. Cheers to that. If you're listening just on audio, I took a big swig of some water because I'm savage out here. I just really appreciate that this is a place where all of the deep insights and the beautiful magical people and all of the nuggets of gold gets to be shared as an outlet for it. And I wanted to sit down and do a solo podcast today. Yes, it's just me, myself, and I, and my notebook from my time at the ISHA Foundation, doing an initiation through Sadhuguru's trainings and his practices. Now, rewind. I originally found out about Sadhguru through Andre, who is my lover, my partner, my inspiration. And he taught me about Sadhguru and essentially like the practices that he enrolls people into or like initiates people into. And he was doing a practice every single morning. Fun fact, Andre has never missed a morning practice since the day I met him and beyond. This man makes it a priority. It's not a negotiable in his life. He has a practice, just like he puts his seatbelt on when he gets in the car. It's just not something that he even thinks about anymore. There's no resistance to it. It's just a part of his life. It's a devotion. Now, I'm somebody that's like, maybe I'll practice, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stay up late, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll create a little bit of this and then not finish it and start something else. And I definitely was the queen of what I like to call queen of open tabs. For you to imagine having like 36 tabs open on your computer, but never fully like closing any of them, that was me. And it actually over time is quite exhausting having that many tabs open because the energy is just leaked towards unfinished things. And so it feels like a fuse that is like, I don't know if it's like the technical term of it, but when a fuse is just kind of like spraying electricity and it's not a closed circuit. And it's just leaking this life force energy and this electricity. And ultimately that's for me, it was like the queen of open tabs was just leaking life force energy. And ultimately this is the realm of distraction. This is the realm of starting things and not finishing. This is the realm of like dabbling in many different things, but not really going all the way in on anything. And it's also, I think, a part of the archetype of the journey of the maiden, right? We go from like the maiden, the mother to the crone, specifically within the female archetypes. And the maiden is kind of like, from what I know it to be or understand it to be, is she's like super happy-go-lucky and innocent and likes to play all the flavors, and she's young and she's beautiful and she's got vitality and freedom, and she's like dabbling in all of the different things that she wants to create, and her wisdom hasn't fully been integrated yet. So it's kind of just like a little more floaty, and it's beautiful and it's exciting and it's crazy and it's wild. But the mother is a little bit more grounded. The mother is a little bit more like, I start things and I finish them. The mother is more nurturing, not only for herself and taking care of all the things that she needs to take care of, but also taking care of the people around her and nourishing her lover and her partner, or a lover and a partner happen to be the same thing, and her children and her home and her health, and just really being very attentive. And then the crone is like, from my perspective, like a very deeply wise, anchored insight, doesn't need to prove anything, doesn't need to be the center of attention, can witness and watch and can read situations, is very deeply seated in who she is and what she brings, and is not trying to strive and prove anything. And so these like, I feel like I have gone through an initiation from the archetype of the maiden to the mother over the last month. And it's been a really, really, really profound shift for me. And I've been waiting to do this podcast because I wanted to give a little bit of context of like really being anchored now more in the mother archetype. And now what I mean by the mother archetype is that I don't have a physical child. I haven't given birth. This isn't what has happened since we last saw each other on Deja Blu Podcast. I haven't like had a secret pregnancy for 9 months and then just given birth and now become the mother. But there is like an energetic shift that has happened. And I would watch Andre doing his morning practice, and it was actually kind of triggering for me a little bit. Not triggering in the sense of like I wasn't happy for him or like that, like super inspired. I was definitely super inspired by the way that he was showing up to his devotion to his higher self. But it was triggering to me because it was a reflection for me that I couldn't not look at, which was all the areas that I wasn't fully showing up for myself. And so every time he'd show up in his practice and I kind of sleep in, or I do my morning practice, but I would sit next to him and I would kind of do it, but like keep one eye open, just like looking at him and like poking him a little bit, like distracting him, letting my distraction for myself like trickle into his experience. And I was starting to notice this actually showing up in my everyday life. Like I used to be able to sit in front of a canvas and paint for like 8 hours straight. And I can't focus for more than 30 minutes on my paintings, and reading books was just like not a thing for me anymore. Like I would get so distracted. And then they've got the world of the cell phones, and there's a million tabs open on cell phones. There's a million different things that we can be doing on cell phones. And it really strengthens this like monkey mind aspect of the human consciousness. But I knew that there was this area of devotion, which is really integration, which is really being the embodiment of life as a ceremony. And so there was a choice point that opened up recently that was sort of like a split in the timelines, and they just so happened to fall on the same day. And the timelines that opened up was that Andre and I were invited to go to Miami and to go and watch Logan Paul's fight against Floyd Mayweather. Now, this is like a whole thing, and there's like being in the fight and being at the Hard Rock Center, and then also I had two friends that like really, really close friends that were there, and they were celebrating someone's birthday, and it was this huge thing, and they had a yacht and a private jet, and it was like a whole thing, like the whole Miami scene, like super over the top, very debaucherous experience, and very pulled by the five senses. And then there was another timeline at the same time that opened up, which was to go and sit with Sadhguru, or go sit at Sadhguru's ashram, and to go and do my second initiation with him, or through him, which was called Shoonyna, which is all about emptying, like emptiness, completely emptying one's mind and body. Because essentially what he shares, and I may butcher his quote, but something along the lines of like, when you're so full of yourself, this is where the suffering happens. This is when you can't be in co-creation with something greater yourself that can flow through you. So, and essentially without the filtering system of like cleansing the mind and resetting the mind, and where the thoughts are going and where our attention is being sent to, then we get so full, we get so noisy, and then we get disconnected with our intuition and our guidance and our clarity and where we're supposed to be going next and what's supposed to be coming through us. So these could not have been two opposite ends of the spectrum of what I was invited into, to go and get very debaucherous in Miami, or to go and be in devotion in flying into Nashville. And I could just feel this part of me that just had like this FOMO, and FOMO is like not a very common thing for me to experience, like fear of missing out. Like I'm here, like there's nothing to miss out when I'm all in on the present moment. But this fear of missing out, like my closest friends, my lover, being in Miami, my brother lives there, and this big fight, it only ever happens once. All these beautiful people are coming in, and also not so beautiful people. Everyone's beautiful, but maybe not my vibe. And I just felt like my higher self was like, you need to go to Shoonyna. Like it's really important. And so I made a decision like super last minute, like 48 hours out, to actually book a flight to go to Shoonyna and to go to Tennessee instead. And I just like was feeling the FOMO and feeling the fear of missing out, but just recognizing that I was following the thing that was supposed to be, was the thing that was really going to serve me in the long run, because I knew that I would come back from my weekend in Miami and I'd be super tired, and highly empathic and just loud noises and lots of people and just like, actually, is it really my highest excitement, or is it just a preconceived notion of a misuse of my imagination of what I think it's going to be and create this FOMO, but actually it's not serving my evolution and the direction that I really want to move in? And I think that the difference between the maiden and the mother is that the maiden will just give in to the short-term high over and over and over again. And the mother archetype is actually committed for the long-term vision, the long-term sprouting of the seeds that were planted 5 years ago, and continuing to be in the devotion of watering it and giving it the right amount of sunlight, giving it the right amount of love and shade, and making sure that it grows and it creates fruit that can be enjoyed by many people, not just oneself. And so that really did feel clear that my higher self was calling me to Shoonyna. And after, spending 5 days, 6 days, it was very apparent to me why Spirit had guided me in this way, and simultaneously why those timelines opened up at the same time. And I went into Shoonyna and I was actually feeling like pretty low, like not super happy, not my usual self. Like my mind was really busy and there was just so much noise going on. And I wrote down like a lot of my experience, and I brought my journal into this podcast today because I feel like I want to open it up and share with you a little bit about what I was processing. Oh, and P.S. on the back of this, this is just a little side note. I have a sticker on the back of my journal now which says "Set Your Pussy Free" by Madam Gandhi. I met her the other day, and she's epic. And right at the end when we were saying goodbye, she handed me a sticker and it says "Set Your Pussy Free" on it. And I thought that it was so worthy of a sticker that it made its way to my journal. So a bit of a contrast from my time at the ashram. But you know what? We like range. We like a little bit of range up in here. We go deep into the world of devotion while simultaneously setting my pussy free. And if you're watching the video on YouTube, you can see there's a sticker. And here's Shiva on the front. That's a nice little contrast. Anyways, so I wrote in my journal, I'm going to get super vulnerable with you guys today because, with you guys, with you ladies, with you everything in between. Okay, so within the theme of getting vulnerable, we like to do this on Deja Blu Podcast. It's just to be really honest, really transparent. In the world of illusions and filters and people saying things just to get approval, what would it look like to actually open my journal and tell you really the dark side of the moon of Yoga Blue? So when I went into the program in the course, I wrote down like day one, June 3rd, 2021. And I wrote down like what I was really feeling, and I like heaviness that I feel. And I put, number one, I'm unreliable. Like I'm unreliable with other people. I'm unreliable with myself. I don't trust that I will do the things that I said that I would do. Which ultimately I realized, like, if I don't do these things that I said that I would do, then I don't trust myself. If I don't trust myself, then I don't fully love myself. If I don't fully love myself, then I can't fully love others. And if I don't fully love others, then I'm actually limiting the beauty that I can see in the world. Like there is a direct link of how all of this interconnected. So if I can't rely on myself, this is a big fucking deal. I think the only person I got to live with for the rest of my life is myself. And if I can't trust myself, like what kind of a relationship is that? And what is it founded off? And what is everything that I'm touching actually being infused with? So this is a huge piece, is not being able to rely on my own word. Right before I went into the experience, I realized that I'd missed one of my commitments. I missed a call that I had with some of my sisters. And I didn't communicate with them either that I wasn't going to be on the call because I completely blanked on it. And again, this is like unreliability. Like if you've got 36, or if I have 36 tabs open, and it's so much to manage, and then there's so many balls that are getting dropped left, right, and center, and it just doesn't feel like a level of responsibility. Like it feels like, it still feels, the maiden, kind of the shadow of the maiden energy that was still running. Also just realizing like I had been in this place with my relationship of like, I'm not sure, I'm kind of in and out. Like it didn't feel like I had solid ground. And ultimately when there's no solid ground in my internal reality, then my external reality, I'm going to question everything. And it's actually got nothing to do with my external reality. It's just my inner reality reflecting into my external experience and then projecting and then thinking, well, it's because of that I feel this way. Or it's because of this I feel this way. And it's an illusion, but it's an illusion from a lack of grounding. It's an illusion from a lack of integration, a lack of stillness of the mind, ultimately. And then just, in general, like, I put unreliable with other people, but also like not responding to people's messages, like straight up ghosting people a lot. Now, on Instagram, I get like quite a lot of messages on a daily basis, and I really do my best to respond to everybody. I really want everybody to feel seen and acknowledged, and also there is a lot of messages that go by the way line, and I pray and I hope that people can understand that Instagram is probably not the best form of communication. But even just my close friends, like I would just not respond, and the sort of person that will either respond within 3 seconds or I won't respond for 4 months, and that just also feels like an inconsistency that doesn't feel true. It doesn't feel honoring, and I don't owe anyone anything, and simultaneously I can be in the transparency of where I'm at, and so there's a beautiful balance between those two places. I also had a friend that reached out to me, a very, very dear friend of mine, that said that she would like to have a clearing with me, and this is all just going before I went into the program. And I believe that when we're about to go through a huge shift of consciousness, like a huge up level in our awareness of self, then we are whatever is not serving, whatever curriculum needs to come up will come up right before. And so I had a feeling that this experience was going to be very powerful for me. And simultaneously, I could feel all of the curriculum that was boiling up to the surface. And I remember we were about to open up the retreat, and I sat in my little chair, like a little back jack, and I had my little meditation. I had my little yoga mat, my meditation blanket. And I just was like super emotional, and like was like crying, and I was sitting on the front row because of I'm hard of hearing. So I said it was like special needs, but Deepa, my dear sister, said that it was a VIP, but I basically am like put on the front row of these experiences, and they give me headphones. I'm the only one that's in the whole room of 80 women that's sitting on the front row with headphones on, like these big red headphones. And it was just really sweet because the foundation was supporting me with not being able to hear everything that was going on. If I was sitting at the back, it was too echoey, so I couldn't pick it up. So according to Deepa, I like Deepa's perception on it. Dory? I was say Dory. I like Dory's perception. I like Dory too, but I like Deepa's perception of it. It's like, you're VIP. You get to wear these earphones. So it's better than anyways. So I wrote, my mind is busy and numb all at the same time. And I feel like with my hearing, I'm sort of checking out a little bit, because with the masks and just communicating with people has got to the point where it's just so challenging and so uncomfortable that I just check out. And so my human connection was not as rich as it once used to be, because I'm checking out way sooner than I even give time for it to get interesting or get good. And this is just like, feeding this feeling of being lonely. Like I felt like a sense of loneliness. Now, bear in mind that this isn't my whole experience, but I am someone that's so hyper conscious of my own psyche and my own thought patterns and feelings and the energies that are in my field, that I put everything under a microscope, and I like really want to understand where all of the pieces that are not fully in love. I wrote a list of people that I either needed to clear with. And what I mean by clearing is realizing like I can feel this tension within the relationship, and just a clearing conversation is to just go directly to the source of where that tension feels like it's stemming from, and have a conversation. Because ultimately, if I don't have a conversation with someone that I feel tension with, then my monkey mind or my misuse of my imagination will assume and create stories, and that just creates so much more suffering. So clearing conversations are really important for me. The second that I feel something in the field, when I feel like I'm ready to speak from my heart, I'm ready to have a clearing conversation, I put that as a priority. So I wrote a few people that I felt the tension with, and it's probably due to the fact that I've gone MIA and I've ghosted them or not shown up for the calls when I said I would. So I made a list of people that I needed to clear with. And then I wrote a list of all the people that I haven't responded to their messages. And this list is really extensive. Looking back on it now, I've actually spoken to every single person minus one on this list. No, minus two on this list. So I've managed to get through the majority of it since getting back, but realizing like, oh my gosh, I have a pattern here where it's like an avoidant pattern or something, that I don't respond to people's messages. And that doesn't feel good. That's a bunch of open tabs in the field. So I went in and these first few pages, I was like feeling really heavy. I was like, oh my God, I'm such a shit person. Oh my God. Like, when there are unconscious programs that are running the field and running the show, the challenging part about them is when they're unconscious, like I didn't realize how much damage it was creating or doing until it becomes conscious, and then like really looking at it and be like, oh, I got some work to do. And so my 5 days was set up for me in a way that I brought this into the forefront of my awareness and wrote these intentions down. Now, Sadhugur went in and started opening it up with the conversation of responsibility. And responsibility being that, like, can you take responsibility for every single thing in your life? Every single thing, every single minute little detail. And so having this curriculum super present at the forefront and realizing, okay, I'm responsible for all of this. I'm responsible for all of this. I'm responsible for my hearing loss. That's a tough pill to swallow. But can I take responsibility for all of it? When I have responsibility, my relationship to it changes. And when my relationship to it changes, I actually have the ability to shift it. But that is the difference between being a conscious creator and a victim of circumstances, taking responsibility for everything. And then I would like breaking it down and be like, okay, be responsible. What does it mean to be responsible? It's my ability to respond. I'm responsible for my happiness. I am responsible for my happiness. I am responsible for my happiness. So if I'm feeling not happy for a period of time and I'm feeling like really busy in my mind and just what's going on, then I am responsible for everything, and my ability to respond is limitless. And so Sadhguru was like really, bringing it in. And with this piece, then I just was like looking at all these areas that this curriculum had presented itself and was like, okay, how can I take responsibility for everything and how can I shift it? And one of the biggest pieces actually as the maiden moving into the mother was my responsibility when it came to like 3D matrix shit. Like stuff that I just was like, oh. Chelsea, my wizard, operations wizard, who's actually standing behind the camera right now, will know that she has tried to get me to go to the DMV, and she's put it on my calendar. She kind of like runs my calendar, and she does my scheduling, and she has put go to the DMV at least how many times? 5 times. You've put go to the DMV on my schedule about 5 times, right? And every time I made an excuse as to why I can't go. Now, it's kind of like funny, like, I'm like, I'm not going to the DMV until it's not. Until it's not cute anymore. And I was like, all right, if I'm not being responsible with the DMV, where else am I not being responsible? And I was like, well, I haven't gone to the dentist in a long time. I haven't really checked back in, to get my blood test done since after being on this cleanse for 4 months. I haven't been to the chiropractor, and I've had backache for as long as I can remember. My accounting with the new business adventures that I'm on, setting up an LLC, doing my taxes, renewing my driving license. I mean, just like so many matrix stuff that I wrote the list of. And I was like, I have a pattern of avoidance. Oh shit. It's like, oh my gosh, like, there's just like a real piece that is playing in my field that is actually so much bigger than what I can even fathom, because realizing that to be responsible, like one of the things that I really want to be in this life is a mother. Like I would love to have a child. It would be one of my greatest honors in this life. And simultaneously, like if I can't take responsibility for the basic shit in my life, and I am having this avoidant patterns and just finding the things that like overstimulate me and the things that excite me, and kind of just avoiding the things that are not that exciting, and being distracted, then I'm not setting myself up for devotion, because devotion is being a mother is the ultimate level of devotion. This is the ultimate level of devotion. I've just had a dear sister, Teresa, give birth to a beautiful, beautiful baby girl, Maya Luna, and just being in the presence of them just for a short period of time and watching online, realizing every time I FaceTime them, like she doesn't really have time to like shower. Like she is with that baby, and that baby is attached to her nipple day and night, crying, wanting feeding. It's like a constant attention. Now, this is the ultimate level of devotion to something that's not you. And if I want to be a mother, then I first have got to devote myself to taking care of myself in a very real way. Now, I could make up a bunch of reasons as to why I've created these patterns, but that's not taking responsibility. So I just got to eat like a massive slice of humble pie. And this retreat was like no joke, because we were sitting in, like for the most part, not even sitting in a chair, but we had like a little backjack. And we woke up at like 4:45 in the morning. Lily's growling. Hey, Lily. So we wake up at like 4:45 in the morning, and then wouldn't go to sleep until about 10:30, 11 p.m. every night. And this was really testing the first few days, because it was essentially like 14-hour days of meditation, of like specific practices, specific breathing, specific techniques. Like it was very, very, very intense, and it required all of our attention, and we weren't allowed to like nod off or write notes or doodle. Like we just had to sit upright and listen. And the first couple of days I was like, oh my God, this is torture. Like my mind was so loud. My body was screaming. I just wanted to like leave. I wanted to find excuses or reasons why I could leave. We weren't allowed to go to the bathroom only on designated breaks. Like there was no way to distract myself. And so I had to face off with myself for 5 days straight. And I guess the nearest thing that I've heard about is a thing called Vipassana. And I've never done Vipassana. I would definitely love to do it. And I think it would be very beneficial. But Vipassana is 10 days of 10 hours a day of meditation. And this is essentially the facing off with yourself. And so I just got to face off with myself in a very real way. And these practices like are next level, like absolutely next level. The training that what they're teaching you in such a short period of time, but it's so condensed and it's so rich, is like, waking up, and I got initiated into a practice of purifying the elements. So it's waking up before the sun and calling in the spirit of the earth, and literally these tiny little pellets of consecrated, like blessed earth from India that you can eat. I eat the earth, and then I say prayers into the water, and then I drink the water, and then I burn this thing, and I breathe the fire in, like take deep breaths, and I say a prayer over the fire, and then I do certain breathing techniques to purify the air. And then 3 times throughout the day, say thank you to the sun and say a prayer to spirit. And this is just the first part. And then they go into initiating you into this like full on like yoga practice, and then Kriya practice, which is mudras and mantras and specific breath locks and holds and breathing patterns. And the breathing patterns change with the different mudras targeting different parts of the body. And then there's like a whole segment that goes into the lungs and the liver and the stomach and the heart, and you like with your attention and intention clean out each organ every day, twice a day. And the initiation that they activated us into was 40 days of devotion, 40 days of 2.5 hours of this every single day. Now going from like the distraction of the 5 senses into this like next level devotion is like such a huge initiation for me. But what I wrote down was, what these 2 timelines that opened up was Miami and Shoonyna. And Miami was fighting, like sensual desires and late nights and tribes and parties and overstimulation and community. And it was just like that was very driven by the 5 senses. And then there was Shoonyna, which is 17-hour days of devotion, meditation, early mornings, yoga, learning, being a student, going on an inward journey. And I wrote, there's a split of timelines, and I choose a choice for my future. I choose life and I choose growth. Now, with this being said, it's not an either or necessarily, but really for me, the initiation with the timeline that was opening up was going, do you choose the evolution of your consciousness, or do you choose to stay in unconscious patterns? So I don't think there's anything wrong with going to Miami and experiencing all of this. I think it's beautiful. But if that is the thing that's distracting me and keeping me in a busy mind, and I'm constantly looking for external stimulus to give me fulfillment, then this is actually a very slippery path. So I wrote, from debauchery to devotion. To be devoted is to keep your eye on the long-term vision and dream for yourself. A commitment to vibrancy, vitality, longevity, and joy. Devotion is waking before the sun to align myself with my truth, to explore my inner world before the outer world demands my attention. to observe my desires without them always having the first say. Devotion is to one thing is devotion to all things. Devotion to myself, devotion to self-care, to health, to my lover, to my altar, to my work, to my dog, to my friends, to my family, to learning and being a student, and ultimately devotion to love. I am on the journey in the archetype from the maiden to the mother. And I am learning to speak less and listen more. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And then I was sat next to this woman in the program. And she was sat to the left of me. And she was, I don't know, probably in like 60s, mid-60s. Beautiful grey hair. Now, I was having an issue sitting up straight the whole time. Like my back was hurting and my mind was chattering and I was constantly fidgeting. And this woman was just sitting upright the whole time. And you could tell that her essence was the byproduct of a lifetime of devotion. The way that she did her yoga, she was slow. The way that she breathed, the way that she listened. And age has got nothing to do with it. Like age is another story. Well, I'm 30 years old. I'm getting older now. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? This woman is showing up next to you in like a little seat right next to you in her 60s with this beautiful silver hair. And her spine is erect and she's fully present and she's absorbing every word and she's so graceful and still and slow and not in a rush. And I just got to see, thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Thank you, Creator, whatever you want to call it. Thank you for placing this woman in my field as a mirror of what devotion looks like over a long term. And I wrote, Margaret was her name, is showing me what the path of devotion looks and feels like over a long period of time. Grace. There's nowhere to get. And I put my cell phone pulls me into the world of the doing mind. It's a tool, but must not let it use me. My attention is far too precious. My dharma is far too valuable. My devotion is the key to my freedom. And then what was interesting, while I was, so I realized devotion was the theme. Devotion was the theme of my time at the ashram. And I remember at one point we were watching a video of Sadhugur speaking and I was looking at his face and just all of a sudden, I don't know if it was because I was tired. I'm getting like 5 hours sleep at this point. I'm like sitting upright the whole time, like I'm delusional. I don't know what's going on. But at one point, Sadhgur's face shapeshifted into who I knew to be Hanuman. Now, Hanuman is a Hindu god. He's a monkey. And the only reason why I know about Hanuman and his name and who he is because there's a street in Bali called Hanuman Street. And on Hanuman Street, there's a bunch of statues of Hanuman and there's monkeys statues. And so I knew that he was the Hindu god that was a monkey, but that's all I knew. And devotion was literally all I was writing out in my journal, like devotion, 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 like literally here. It was just like devotion, 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 devotion. So I then said to Deepa, I was like, Deepa, at one point, Sadhguru's face shapeshifted into Hanuman's face. And I was telling her about, my journey with devotion. And she's like, well, that's interesting, Blue, because Hanuman is the god of devotion, like of strength, of like commitment. And this just blew my mind. I was just getting like golden nuggets left, right, and center. Now, I'm not on ayahuasca. I'm not drinking mushroom tea. I am literally just in mindfulness. And I was starting to get a lot of clarity to come through because the mind was starting over the days to become less and less and less. And what I was experiencing was that we would go through periods of time where we would do about 20 minutes of just alternate nostril breathing and then 20 minutes of just Om in a room, in a beautiful consecrated space with 80 other women Oming at the same time. And I was starting to get into these little pockets of bliss. Like, wow, this is actually on the other side of how full of myself I was, of how full of my own thoughts and my own needs and my own desires and fulfilling those desires and constantly finding the next overstimulation and just busyness. And ultimately, that's also deafness. Like in the gene keys, the deafness gene key is all about being deaf to your own intuition, to your own clarity, to your own insights. And I don't think that this is just something that is in me. And actually realizing that now that I've started this 40 Days of Devotion challenge, which I'll go into in a little bit online, how this has spread like wildfire. And I've just invited people in on this journey with me. people that have started this practice are saying how busy their mind was and how they were suffering and how they haven't found their true north and their happiness. And it's not just me. This is like the collective deafness of our own intuition. And somebody said something online, which I'll elaborate on, but something like the real pandemic is that we've become disconnected with ourselves. And the real pandemic is that we can't hear ourselves. The real pandemic is we've become disconnected to our intuition. The real pandemic is that we've become disconnected to our own bodies, which is also the earth. Like, we're not listening. Like, we listen with our ears, but we're not hearing with our bodies. Like, it's two very different things. And the only way to get to this place, like, I have so much respect, and I've talked about plant medicine so many times on the podcast, and I've had so many beautiful guests that talk about it, and I've been to retreats, and I've had profound experiences. But the only way to a place of stillness is not through plant medicines. Plant medicines will show you. They'll show you what it means to truly be human, life beyond the veil, life beyond the preconceived notion of what we think we know, of all of the labels that we've placed on our experience and therefore defined our experience and the story in which we live. They'll show you a different perspective. They'll show you the interconnected nature of everything. Yes. And they will not do the work for you. The work is found in the stillness. The work is found in meditation. The work is found in mindfulness. The work is found in nurturing. The work is found in integrity in every single moment, which then creates the fabric of the human experience. And I was getting a huge realization through all of this. So I made a commitment to myself, no more commitments until all my current tabs are attended to. So it was like going through the list of all the things that I started. I'm the queen of making paintings and finishing them at about 80% and then moving on to the next one. This just shows up in so many different areas of my life. And then during a meditation, I saw the vision, 40 days of devotion, hashtag 40 days of devotion, create a movement. And bring others in on it, and create a personal challenge, an online challenge for accountability, and create an accountability train online for other people as well. So these were the insights and the things that were coming through. And then right on the last day when I was meditating, I just got like the number 33, just like just ingrained in my mind. And I was like, Gene Key number 33. Gene Key number 33. And I've forgotten off the top of my head which one Gene Key number 33 was. I knew I had it in my chart, but when I came out of the retreat, I wrote it in my journal, and I want to take action. I wanted to take action on every single thing that I wrote down in my journal. So not just write it down and then never address it again, but actually write it down and follow through and complete it. And so I went into Gene Key number 33, and Gene Key number 33 literally put a golden thread throughout my whole experience and worded it in ways that I couldn't have worded it personally. And I also have Gene Key 33 as my gift to the world. So there's my life's work, and then right underneath it is my pearl, which is essentially like my offering that I bring to people. And the shadow of Gene Key number 33 is forgetting. The gift of Gene Key number 33 is mindfulness. And then the highest expression of Gene Key number 33 is revelation. And so I started writing it down on my flight back, and I couldn't write fast enough. I was like, this is literally everything. This is the initiation that I've just gone through, and this is my new commitment. Now, as many pages of this as I literally wrote so much. The guy next to me was like, damn, girl. Where'd you just come from? I was like, meditation retreat. I'm getting the codes. I only have 2 hours left of the flight. I got to get it all down before I land. So ultimately, it's called the Maya of the Maya, like getting lost in the Maya, the sea of illusions, the realm of distractions, the realm of the 5 senses that are completely distracting us from our inner landscape. And it says that Gene Key number 33 is connected to the greatest and most ancient culture, which is the Indian culture. But of course, I've just spent my time in an Indian ashram with an Indian teacher, getting Hindu deities coming to me and delivering messages. And so, of course, like I was just following the golden threads here, and I was like, wow, I'm having like breakthroughs. Oh my gosh, you connected to the Indian culture. This is perfect. And essentially forgetting is what we call, like, we get caught up in what's called sanskaras. And a sanskara is a knot of my own making. And it is a great test of my own evolution. And it's when a sanskara is being caught by your own senses. So essentially like getting caught by food, getting caught by cell phone, getting caught by watching Netflix, getting caught by like just these things that just like give me a short-term hit, but actually continue to tighten this knot of my own making. And the more I feed into the 5 sensory experience, the tighter the knot becomes. And it also says my forgetting is part of the collective energy field. So this is a collective piece too. And that's why I felt like this challenge would be so powerful for so many other people, not just myself, because I'm not just talking on behalf of myself. Yes, this is like the awareness that I am having, but this isn't just like to, me. And it says, my true nature cannot be revealed until I remember that I have actually forgotten my way. I've forgotten my path. And the byproduct of this is feeling separate and alone as opposed to unified and all one. And part of my life's work is unity, is beauty, love, and unity, which is what blue represents, BLU, beauty, love, and unity. And unity is part of what I'm here to bring. So if I'm on the other side of that, which is like isolating myself and then using the excuse that I'm too busy to get back to people. So the story that I was telling myself is I was ghosting people because I was far too busy to get back to people, but that's actually not true. Yes, I'm a very busy individual for building and cultivating what it is that I want to create in this life. And simultaneously, that's actually just a story and it's an excuse. And so what Andre was doing and what he was actually, the reason why I was triggered by his practice was because he's literally demanding me to come out of my shell, demanding me to break this pattern. And by him showing up, like him not necessarily lecturing me or trying to change me, but just being in his devotion and being in his commitment was enough to bring me into a deeper level of questioning myself. And then it said the gift here is that the death of the ego, and the only way that the death of the ego is truly going to happen is through meditation and mindfulness. And mindfulness means to be attentive, and attentive means to close the tabs. To be mindful is to be attentive, and to be attentive is to close all of these tabs, and to be attentive is to live a life of devotion. To be attentive is to be in the archetype of the mother. So this was an invitation for me to start being attentive. And it says once I start actually coming to self-awareness around this piece, which is what was happening, I start moving into a higher octave, a higher frequency, a higher or like a clearer state of consciousness. And it says I'm no longer held captive by my own unconscious desires. I'm no longer ignorant of my own suffering. And right now I have begun the purging stage, which is purging all of the unconscious patterns. I see all the patterns that created my own suffering. A new view of life has opened up before me. And I am refining and purifying my nature, and I'm no longer creating negative karma for myself. So I'm in the purification stage. And this is accelerated through working within my relationships and seeing how within specifically my partnership, he is an invitation of, I feel like I'm in a relationship with grace, gracing me an opportunity to up level through the presence of just being the embodiment of it and being in love with that individual. And I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it genuinely feels amazing and it feels so much better. But it also to be in relationship also is such an amazing way, whether it's a friendship or an accountability system, and that's what I've created online, is to utilize this accountability to actually allow ourselves to come home into ourselves. And ultimately, discrimination was the piece, was my tool to utilize my gift of discrimination, which is the two things, that which keeps me trapped and that which gives me freedom. And so for 40 days, my new challenge for myself was not only the practice, but to moderate my thoughts, feelings, speech, and actions. And to genuinely be moderating them in a way that, is this keeping me trapped or is this giving me freedom? And a mindfulness is like a calmness inside of my DNA that transforms me back into my truest essence. I'll read that again. Mindfulness is a calmness inside of my DNA that transforms me back into my truest essence. Because when I start finding it so wonderful, I want more of that experience. And that's what makes it sustainable. It's got to be coming from a place of, this feels so good, why would I not be doing this? As opposed to, I have to, or I should be doing this, but I don't really want to. One of them is sustainable, the other one is not, and it will continue to back into the loop pattern. This is the fuel that returns me to the pure center of my being, which essentially realizing when I'm in the pure center of my being, my manifestation is so much more powerful because my frequency is so much more charged and it's not just leaking in so many different directions. So I was in the facing off with the negative patterns of my own shadow, and meditation and contemplation is the key to my freedom. Meditation and contemplation is the key to my freedom. Mindfulness is the organic flowering of self-awareness, self-remembering, to see my own victimhood. And I've also wrote, I am not yet free, right? It's one thing, but like, I'm realizing and I'm seeing all of this beautiful insights and I'm really understanding it now, but I'm not yet free because the practice hasn't been done. The new neural pathways haven't been created yet. I'm just acknowledging where these patterns have been created. The more I raise my frequency, the more challenging my patterns become because I'm just becoming more and more aware of them. And so, this was a big death of my ego. And essentially, this is really the really beautiful part. This is where my art and my creativity is born, because genius can only happen when I'm not there, when I'm empty. Genius and creativity is something that flows through us. But if we're full of ourselves, there's no room for the creativity to flow through. Like if this is full, and if you're listening to this, and I'm holding up a glass of water, and I'm saying if this glass of water is full, then how can spirit or creation flow through me? And this is when I get over distracted by the five senses, is just filling myself up. But really, actually, what Sadhugur shares, in a world of where everybody's trying to be somebody, what would it look like to actually be working on being nobody so you can be everything? This is like the biggest mindfuck of all of it, is when everybody's trying to be something. What would it look like to actually just become empty and listen? And let the guidance come through, and let every creation come from a deep place of self-understanding. Something else will begin to look through your eyes and think through your mind and live through your actions. And this is the path of devotion. This is the co-creation with something greater than ourselves. This is the co-creation with spirit. This is the co-creation with nature. This is the co-creation with music. This is the co-creation with the very thing that made the flower. The meticulous nature of the thing that created the jaguar or the human body. You want to be in co-creation with that? I do, because that's an intelligence far beyond anything I can comprehend. So this is the revelation. This is the revelation that I really went through. And it just says all that I was is forgotten. And now all that I am is starting to be remembered. And this is born on the other side of devotion. And so remembering is like remembering my body parts, remembering who I actually am, to enter into all the separate members of the greater body, back in the mystery of the eternal now. The great revealer of the hidden secrets. Now, when we're in the remembering and the revelation, then we have access to the angelic realms, and the angelic realms can bring us insight and wisdom that we just bring us down on our knees in prayer and gratitude that this even exists. And so the piece here is, can you fall in love with your own story? Can I fall in love with my own story? Not looking at other people's stories and the highlight reels and thinking that I should be something that I'm not, but can I fall in love with my own story and follow it without holding anything back? Follow it without holding anything back. Have faith in my own storyline, because ultimately there is nobody in this life to follow. Now, this was my insights and my downloads from my time at the Ashram. Now, you can imagine, Andre got back from Miami. He was exhausted. In fact, he actually got a little sick and had to be in bed for a few days. While I was waking up before the sun, doing my kriyas, just stoked. I was wearing my little outfit that I just bought. It was my meditation outfit. I was setting up the 40 Days of Devotion Challenge, and I was on a whole nother level. And that choice point of going to Miami or going to the ashram and everything that I had to face off with to find this peace that I have now cultivated within me that will last with me for the rest of my life, irreplaceable. And so I wanted to make sure that this wasn't just another experience that was profound and I felt amazing and then would come back and it would just trail out. And that's why they set up the 40 days of practicing this teaching. And so I set up the 40 Days of Devotion Challenge, and anybody could start it. If you're listening to this and you haven't even seen it online or whatnot, then I invite you into your 40 days of devotion. And this is, if you go on my Instagram, you'll see what I've been posting about it. And I've made a couple of videos that give you the full insights of the details of it. But this is an opportunity for you to come home into yourself. And something I read online the other day, which I'm just going to find it right now. Keep hanging out with yourself until you are you again. I don't know who said that. It was an anonymous quote, but keep hanging out with yourself until you are you again. So I've been hanging out with myself and I've been putting the time in, and I'm now 15 days in to 2.5 hours of meditation every day. I've never felt stronger or clearer. My roots are right deeply anchored into the earth. And I genuinely, every single morning, I'm on my knees and I'm in tears of gratitude for what it means to be me. I feel clear. I feel like my mind is clear. I have never been more in love with my partner. I just look at him and just complete admiration. Like I can't stop staring at him. I'm just so in love. I'm in love with my life. I'm in love with my creations. I'm in love with my dog and my home and my friends. And I see as the patterns start coming back up to the surface, but I'm mindful of them now and I'm being attentive. I'm taking care of things. I've been to the chiropractor. I've gone to the dentist. I've booked the DMV. I've got my videos getting uploaded and I'm responding to all of my friends. And yeah, I feel like I'm home. And now this isn't something that's just like, oh, now this is it for the rest of my life. This is not a season. This is a life's work. This is literally for forever. Just like getting in the car and putting the seatbelt on. I don't just be like, oh, I did it yesterday, so I don't have to do it today. No, this is a devotion. This is what devotion truly means. And according to the Gene Keys, anything done half-heartedly is not worth doing at all. So I'm all in. I'm devoted. I have been absolutely mind blown at the amount of people that have joined this challenge online. It's so beautiful. I get every morning I open up my Instagram, there's like 40 messages of people being tagging me, and they're all over the world, men, women, and non-binary individuals, and people from all over the world, from all different cultures and all different races and all different backgrounds and all different settings, doing their practice of devotion. And I think that the world will heal when we can learn to listen again. And not just listen with our ears, but listen with the entirety of our being, and listen to our own intuition, and listen and or get quiet enough to be able to truly hear what the world has to say, because it's beautiful. So thank you for tuning in to today's podcast, a little solo jam sesh. I'm excited for this one to get out because this one feels really, really close to my heart. Super vulnerable. I just read you huge extracts from my journal, and this is what's going on behind the scenes. So come join me on the 40 days of devotion. If you choose to join me, then please hashtag 40 days of devotion and tag me in your post so I can see you doing your practices and I can repost them on my stories and inspire other people. Also, if you resonate with this podcast, please share it and post it on your stories, share the link, and let's be on this train together, because it's not really about me, but it's about allowing this message to come through me and to be shared. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. If you're listening at home, sending you so much love and so much appreciation. And until next time, blessings.